Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over your summer forecast for this year. Yesterday we had our April forecast out, so if you didn't already, go check that out. But in today's video we're going to be going over your temperature anomaly forecast, your precipitation anomaly forecast, and then at the end of today's video we'll also be going over your overall forecast. And again, that's going to be at the end of the video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Here's what the temperature anomaly forecast looks like. And starting off with your below average temperatures, I'm expecting those to stay mainly confined to the northern plains and the northwest. We're expected to be in a weak La Nina this summertime, or either a weak La Nina or a Enzo neutral. So either way, it looks like the cold will be kept a little bit further to the north and also further to the west. Here's my second area of below average, and this is going to be that moderately below average area, and that's for areas surrounding Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana as well. And this is where I think you're going to be even more below average. I'm not going to add a third layer of below average just because there isn't enough confidence just yet. Maybe in my upcoming summer forecast, which I will be updating this forecast probably one or two more times, I might add a third layer to either the below average or the above average categories, but right now there just isn't enough confidence for me to put out a third layer. There is too much that can still change within the next couple of months. Here's the above average region, and I think this covers much of the eastern and southern United States. From California to Maine, we have slightly above normal temperatures expected from June through August on average. So you might have maybe June is cold and then July and August are warm. It would still be above average, even though you had 1 month that was colder than normal. So you can still get some colder days, some chillier days, even though the majority of your days in this region will most likely actually be a little bit above normal and warmer than normal. Here's that second area of above average. And again, I'm not going to add a third layer because there isn't enough confidence, but if I were to add a third layer, it would probably be somewhere right along the southwestern United States. I'm expecting moderately above average temperatures anywhere in this area, which covers the southwest and the south central part of the country. This is where I think it'll be even warmer than normal, and I think you're really going to start to feel it in this area with consistent warmth. You won't really have too many Arctic shots that are really strong enough, especially in the summertime, that can make it that far to the south, so you're really going to be stuck in probably a milder pattern in that area. Here's that precipitation anomaly forecast, and again, from June through August, I'm expecting below normal rainfall or precipitation through parts of Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, back through Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California as well. Throughout this entire area in the southwest, I am expecting less rainfall than normal. You are going to have the monsoon season most likely in May and June, which is typically when you do see it. But I think for the rest of the summer, you're really not going to see a lot of rainfall in parts of the southwest. So really, it's going to be fairly dry in these regions. And there really won't be many storms that are going to head into the southwest. They'll likely start off in the northwest or in the Gulf of Mexico. So they're really going to cut out that region. And for that reason, I'm going to leave this region in the below average category. Here is the above normal category. We actually skipped the moderately below average. That covers parts of the southwest as well. In that second layer, that's where I think it'll be even drier than normal. But heading over to the above normal category, you can see that for three different areas, one for the northwest, one for the Great Lakes, and another one for the southeast, we have slightly above normal precipitation expected. This area is where I think you're going to have more storms and more rainfall than normal. In the northwest, you're just going to get that normal La Nina flow off the Pacific that's going to provide fairly consistent rainfall. You'll see quite a bit of rainfall each day, and it's just going to be quite typical for the Pacific Northwest, where they're very, very used to seeing some rainfall. And some of that might even come in the form of snow, especially through June and August. Probably not in July too much, but in June and August, you might see a little bit of snowfall out of those precipitation events in the Great Lakes. I think you're going to see a couple clipper systems in the form of pretty much all rain dip down from Canada and head into the northern plains and the Great Lakes, and I think you could get a little bit more precipitation than normal in those areas, not by a whole lot. And then also for the southeastern United States, the fact that we have a hurricane season coming up, that of course could help, and I think you will see an above average hurricane season. My hurricane season forecast will be coming out tomorrow, so make sure you are staying tuned for that. But I am expecting above normal hurricane activity, and of course one or two of those could make landfall, unfortunately. So if it does, you're gonna of course see the effects of rainfall from that, and a lot of those actually do head into the second region here. So you can see that in the moderately above average region, I cut out another area in the Tennessee Valley and over the Carolinas as well. And that's because when you're thinking of this, a lot of these storms, these tropical storms that head out from the Gulf of Mexico, they head northward through parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, wherever they actually make landfall, and then they head into the Tennessee Valley, the Carolinas potentially, and into the Ohio Valley sometimes, and they just kind of stall out there, and they actually do bring quite a bit of rain. And on the flip side, if you have another storm that comes in off the Atlantic, sometimes they do make a turn and head into the Tennessee Valley and the Carolinas as well. So I think either way, you're going to be hit with rainfall, especially during late July into August, when we do see a lot of landfalls. Typically, that's the most active period. From August to September is when we see most of our landfalls. And I think during that time period, you are going to see quite a bit of rainfall. Mix that in with a few storms that are going to head a little bit further north of there, keep you in the warm sector and bring some rainfall. I think on average, you will be above normal in terms of your precipitation. Now, here is the overall forecast, and this is a blank map right now, but we're going to fill it in and give you context to what I'm thinking for each individual colored region. Starting off in the western United States, cool and wet, and that includes much of the Pacific Northwest and back through into parts of Idaho, Nevada, and Utah. And this is where I'm expecting it to be fairly active, especially as you get closer to the Pacific Ocean. And also, I do think you'll have intermittent cold air that'll move through this area. So generally, it'll be cool and wet. Really not too pleasant of a pattern if you do live in the Northwest. So quite muggy and really not nice weather over those areas in the Pacific Northwest for the summertime. Late snow expected in the northern Rockies. This is quite typical. You can even see snow into early July for areas in Wyoming, especially near Yellowstone National Park. That's where they can see snowfall all the way up to the 4th of July or even later. And then, of course, you have that one, maybe 2 to 3 week break in late July, and then you go right back to the snowfall in August. So they really don't get a break from winter, and it looks like this year really won't be any different, especially with the cooler temperatures and also the expected above normal precipitation. It looks like you could see a little bit more snowfall than typical during the summer months in those areas. Warm and dry for parts of the Southwest, so pretty much the complete opposite of what we were just talking about, and that includes California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas as well, especially Western Texas. And this is where, as it states, warm and dry conditions are expected. I think it'll be milder. You really won't see too much precipitation. Again, because of mainly the La Nina, it brings the jet stream further north and then dips it into the eastern United States. And as it does that, it's going to really cut out the Southwest from any real precipitation. We saw that this winter. They saw next to zero precipitation except for that one couple week stretch, I believe in January, where they had that big winter storm / rainstorm in those areas. But other than that, they really did not see any precipitation during the winter, which is typically when they see most of their rainfall. So unfortunately, not looking at too much precipitation in those areas, and just dry over parts of Arizona, Nevada, and also into a little bit of eastern California. And that's where I'm expecting it to be also warm, but significantly drier. Maybe just a little bit of rainfall here and there during the summer, but I really don't think you're going to see anything too consistent or anything that'll really relieve the big drought that's over that area. chilly conditions over parts of the northern plains, especially the Great Plains, and as you get further west of there into basically between the Rockies and the Great Plains is where we have that chilly region setting up. So this is where, again, as the name implies, I think it will be chillier, colder than normal over these couple months, especially I think during June and August. July really might heat up for a lot of these areas, but again, if you have 2 out of the 3 months that are chillier than normal, and you have 1 month that's above normal, you're going to average out to a bit colder than normal on average. Severe storms in this area, which covers the Central Plains and the Great Plains, that goes from North Dakota to Texas and Oklahoma. So that's where I'm expecting the heart of the severe weather to really set up. You're in between the expected cold air and the expected warm air. So because of that, that's typically where you're going to see your severe weather set up. And normally during the springtime, it's more centered over the southeast. But then gradually over time, during the summertime, it does start to gradually move a little bit westward with the heart of the severe weather. And eventually ends up in areas like Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota, which is the Tornado Alley region. So in those areas, this is where we're expecting the most severe storms to take place this summer. More active over parts of the Great Lakes. I think that especially for May, it'll be a quite dry month, even for parts of June. But I think as you get into July and August, I do think it'll kind of go back to a little bit more of an active pattern. And for that reason, I added more active to that region. Back and forth over this midsection of the United States from parts of the Central Plains into the Ohio Valley and then into the interior, Northeast, and the Appalachians. And that's where I'm dealing. That's where I think you're going to be dealing with back and forth temperatures, where you're going to go one day from being cold to the next day being warm, and just basically all over the place. You're going to be in between the cold and the warm as well, and generally, again, it's just going to be all over the place in terms of the conditions that you're going to be seeing if you live within this region. Rainy conditions over the Tennessee Valley and parts of the Carolinas as well. This is, again, where I had that moderately above normal rainfall region. So that's really generally where I think you're going to be dealing with the most rainfall or the most potent rainfall. I don't think it'll come really as kind of a consistent type of rainfall. I think it's going to be one of those more all at once when you see one of those storms head inland. I think that's when you're going to get most of your rainfall, unfortunately. So I don't think it'll be consistently that you're going to see a lot of rainfall, but I just think there will be a couple events that just push you over that mark where you're going to end up being above average for the summer season. Warmer conditions in this orange region for the southeast and the south central part of the country, and as the name implies, I do think it'll be warmer than normal, milder than normal in a lot of these areas. It'll be a little bit drier on the western half of that region, a little bit wetter on the eastern half of that region, and a little bit of severe weather might also be expected in those regions. Hurricanes, and I put a big question mark there because we don't know exactly where they're going to landfall. Of course, each hurricane is different, and we can't can't tell exactly where they're going to landfall this far out in time. So we can only make assumptions based on the broad pattern, but we can't tell you town by town who's going to be impacted with hurricanes just yet. So I'm going to cover the entire Gulf Coast and the Southeast Coast under that broad brush of hurricane threat, because we do have the threat of hurricanes, and I do think you'll see a little bit above normal hurricane activity this year. And of course, if you want more details on that, go check out my hurricane forecast, which will be out in just another day. By tomorrow, we'll have that hurricane season forecast out for you guys. And then the tropical storms late. If you live along the coastal Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic coast, I think for August, and this doesn't include the summertime, but also for September, and even though that's technically not included in this forecast, tropical storms, I think, are going to be present during that time frame. You won't really have to worry about anything for June, July, and even the first part of August, but I think the late part of August is when you might have 1 or 2 tropical storm threats, and I'm just saying that there might be a threat of that happening, not necessarily saying that there's a guaranteed shot that you even get hit by one this year. So there is that threat, and you do want to pay attention to that, and I do think it is a possibility that you will want to definitely prepare for, and just definitely keep an eye on the tropics, and just keep an eye on whether you have any storms to deal with if you do live in that area. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.